Hey, Rocky, Ben Johnson here to record this week's High Tech Friday. This week we take another look at Flubaroo, which will automatically grade your test, which means you can go home before all of your colleagues. It uses Google Forms and a script called Flubaroo to accomplish that, and we'll show you some of the new features in Google Forms that improves this from the last time we visited it. So to begin, you're going to log into your Google Drive. You're going to create a new Google form. Hopefully you've done that before and this looks familiar. I would go ahead and have students collect their login and require their login just for security, and if it's a high stakes test I would allow them only to submit one response for, again, security and high stakes. And then I'd shuffle the question order so if two students are seated next to each other they're on different questions. You wouldn't need to show the progress bar unless you break this test into multiple pages. So I'd check those four boxes. Go ahead and start by giving your test a name. I'll just call this Geo Test, and I would start by collecting the student's name, and then you can specify if you want it to be last, comma, first, or if you want to collect that with two different questions, completely up to you. And you can do a text question for that, and you would require it, and then you would hit done. You could collect things like the period if you want to be able to sort by period, so I would just do multiple choice, ask for period, and then I would type in the periods that I teach. And again, that will allow me to sort by period when I go to enter my grades into the grade book, and I'll require that question. You can ask as many of these sort of demographic questions as you want, and at some point you'll need to begin asking the content questions. So I'll just add item. Most of your content questions will probably be multiple choice because they're the most reliable to grade, and I'll talk about that in a second. So what is the capital of Colorado? And this is where you would put in your distractors. So I'll just type in Fort Collins, Pueblo, Denver, and Colorado Springs. While you might think you should check the correct answer here, you actually don't do that. You take the test as a teacher, and that makes your key, and I'll show you that in a second. And I can require all of these questions so that students don't accidentally submit the test without answering every question. And you could add as many questions as you want, and so I could add text questions. The caveat there is it has to be exactly what you type in. So if the student types a stray space or a period, they'll be counted wrong. Paragraph text, if you have an essay question, you can do that. It won't be scored automatically, and I can show you how to skip that kind of question in a second. Multiple choice we just did. Checkboxes allows more than one answer to be correct. Only problem here is if students check two of the three correct answers, they miss the entire question. There's no partial credit, no easy way to assign partial credit there. Choose from a list is just like multiple choice. It's reliable, it just shows up different. For math teachers and science teachers, geography teachers, you may want to include images for those complex images that you can't describe with text. And you can either browse for those, or else you can just grab the URL of an image that is already up on the web. Videos or YouTube videos, which may not be reliable, so I probably would skip those at this time just because they could be blocked, but images work well. I'll just go ahead and do a paragraph question. So I'll say capital of New Mexico. Again, students would have to type exactly what you've typed. I'll require that question and then hit done. Okay, so you would just continue to add as many questions as you want. Some options down here. You can allow the responders to edit their response after submitting if you want. Not necessary, but that's an option. You can make it pretty by changing the theme, and so you can pick a nice theme for your test. One of the last things I want to show you here is that if you go to view the live form, you'll see that the real quiz has a long address, too long for students to type. So if I come back here to the edit my questions in this form, I can go to send form, and here you'll see a new option that's shorten the URL. Now I could write this URL on the whiteboard, and my students will have a pretty good chance of typing that in compared to the long one. You can always use bit.ly to type a much shorter address if you want an even shorter address, but then you would just copy that, write it on your whiteboard. Preferably you would just paste this into your Google Classroom or onto your Google site or your blog or your wiki, whatever you're using. And then I'll hit done. Alright, now I want to show you how this is scored. So when I'm ready to, I'll just view that live form, and I could use that short URL if I wanted to. Here I'm going to take it as the teacher to begin with, and this is the key, and so I just need to make sure that I get all of the answers correct. And again, these are a little problematic because students have to type exactly what you type. This send me a copy of my responses. Unfortunately, there's no way to turn that off at this time if you collect the student's user ID, and I'll just hit submit. Okay, so I've established a teacher key. Now I want to take it a few times as a fake student to show you what that looks like. So I'll just uncheck this only allow one response so that I can take it as a fake student here. And so here I'll get it wrong the first time so that you can see what that looks like. And I'll just be student 1. Okay, and again I'll take it so that you can see a correct answer, and so here I'll be student 2 and I'll get the questions right. And just pick a random period here and submit that. Okay, so pretend like 30 students have taken this, you're ready to score it. So you go back to your Google Drive, you may need to refresh your Google Drive depending on how long it's been, and here are the geo responses, and you can see here's the original quiz if I want to edit that. In this case I want to grade them, so I'll go into the spreadsheet of the answers. You can see right here. This was a short test, so I'm not going to have a big benefit by automatically grading it, but you can imagine how much time you would save on a lengthy test. I need to add something called Flubaroo, so I go to add-ons, and I've already installed it. But if you've not, you'll need to get add-ons, and you'll need to search for Flubaroo. And it's probably already going to be there, and you'll just install it. You'll need to accept the terms of use and all that good stuff. I've already got it, so I don't need to do that again. So I'm ready to grade, so I just come up here to add-ons. Here's Flubaroo, it's installed. I just hit grade assignment. It's going to bring up a wizard to prompt me through it, and I just need to make sure that it's guessed correctly on the different types of questions, and in this case it has, although I can change the points on these questions if I want. If I had an essay question, I could skip grading on the essay question, but in this case I've got a short test, so this is really easy for me to do here. On a longer test you might want to look through it and make sure that Flubaroo guessed correctly on all your different question types, and I'll hit continue. And this next option is going to have me pick the answer key. Well, it's the one that I took as the teacher, so I just check that box. It doesn't have to be the first one, it could be the last one, or it could be in the middle. And then I hit continue. And it's grading the test now. The longer the test and the more students, the longer it will take, and I'll view the grades. If if more than a third of the students miss the question, it flags that with an orange column, and so those would be questions that you might want to look at again as a teacher and spend some time reviewing those, because the majority of the kids miss those questions, or more than a third of the kids miss those questions. Okay, it's going to give you total points and an overall percentage, and it's going to give you a summary here, which is nice if you've got a class of 30 students taking it and you want to just get a feel for how they did overall. I can go back to add-ons and go to Flubaroo, and I can view a report. It's going to give me a histogram of how the students did overall on that test. With only 2 students, this is not terribly helpful, but with a real class it'll give you a nice distribution to show you how your students did on that test. Okay, and I'll close that. Finally, if I go back to add-ons, I can go to Flubaroo and I can email the grades to the students, and I just have to pick which column has the email address. In this case it's username, so I just make sure that says username. I can include an answer key or not. Maybe if they've all taken it I would include that, and then I can type a little message here. Maybe I could give them a link to a website where they can review some of the questions that people had problems with in general. Then I just hit continue, and it's going to send everybody their score. The immediate feedback is really nice here, because as a classroom teacher it may be several days before you would be able to get that test graded. So the immediate feedback here is really nice for you and the students both. Alright, so that's an overview of the Flubaroo script and the spreadsheet of results. If you need to have some students come and take that test because they're ill, you can always come to add-ons and Flubaroo and you can regrade that test. And any new students here on the spreadsheet will go ahead and regrade that test for you. Okay, I want to go back to the quiz and show you just the equation editor. So I'm going to go here to the Geo test, and that's going to bring this form back up. Now I've installed an add-on called GMath Forms, which you could get by going to Get Add-ons, and this is just an equation editor. And so I can go to add-ons and go to my GMath formulas, forms, and this would be for math, science teachers, economics teachers, and I can create a math expression, a graph, or a statistical display. So I'll just create a math expression, and this is going to work a little bit like an equation editor that you've used in the past. You can pick sort of the format that you're looking for down here. Unfortunately, I'm not a math teacher, and so I'll just pick one here to show you what that would look like. And you can see that would put that equation in, and you can then come up here and actually edit the numbers to match the problem there. So I just wanted to point that out for math teachers as well. All right, so that's just a really quick demo of using a Google form with Flubaroo and some of those new features that will improve the tests and quizzes that you give your students. Thanks for watching this week's High Tech Friday.